Well, it's a requirement of all public offices, ministries, and agencies in terms of the Public Service Reform Initiative to have strategic plans and annual plans that outlines how they are contributing to the broader national development agenda. So it's important that each office, ministry, and agency, like the Ministry of Justice and Labor Relations, has a plan of action which outlines, one, what is our mandate, and then how does that mandate then contribute to the broader national goals as set out in the Vision 2030, in the National Development Plans. We're already working on we have finalized as a country the sixth National Development Plan. And then we are also compelled to ensure that whatever we do corresponds to the aspirations that have been set by the government of the day. And in this respect, it is directed by Cabinet that all offices, all public offices, agencies, they must cascade the Swapo Party Manifesto Implementation Plan in their plans. So the idea why we came together, and you would recall that we used to have two ministries, which is one ministry, the ministry responsible for justice, and then the other one was the Ministry of Labor, Employment Creation, Innovation, and all that. So by proclamation in terms of the powers vested in the president, the current president saw it fit and necessary that the former Ministry of Justice and the ministry that was dealing with labor be combined into one. So that therefore necessitated that team, which is jointly tasked to oversee the implementation of justice and labor relation related functions in the country, are one team. That's why we had to come up. We had two separate plans already that were drawn up by those ministries when they were separate, but now we had to come together as one team to now come up with a combined strategic plan for the next 5 years, and then focusing also out of that 5 years, then the plan for the current financial year as one new ministry.
Yeah. Now, during the week, you also emphasized the importance of making this plan realistic and aligned with public needs. What does that look like in practical terms?
Yes, what it means is really to say, what are the societal problems or needs, aspirations that are out there that the ministry responsible for ensuring access to justice as well as sound and harmonious labor relations is contributing to. So we have very specific goals, and one of the goals, as I've just indicated, is to ensure largely, and that's why I believe Her Excellency the President saw it fit that the ministries dealing with justice and labor relations is put together, because one of the common denominator of what those two ministries used to do is ensuring access to social justice. Where you're looking at what the supreme law of the country provides for in terms of access to justice and equality. But then on the labor side, we have also been strongly emphasizing, social justice. And therefore, that is one. For us to ensure access to justice is one of them. To ensure that our people irrespective, of their income status, have reasonable access to justice whenever they need such. And we have different instruments, in terms of the law and also the structuring of the Ministry of Justice, where they can get that assistance. I'm sure and the public knows that we have, for instance, the legal aid unit or department through which, assistance is given to Namibians who cannot afford legal services, on their own, and therefore the state is there because to ensure access to justice is mean that before somebody can be proven to be guilty or not, that person should be given, a fair hearing and access to justice, and therefore for them to be represented, the state is obliged to provide that assistance through the legal aid. And you may be, you may be aware, and the public will be aware that the threshold for people that can qualify for legal aid, for instance, has been moved in terms of income levels. It has been moved from 3,000 to 7,000. So, and that is really just to ensure that we are as much as inclusive as possible. So really, access to justice is one of the main societal needs and challenges that this ministry is entrusted to lead national endeavors. The other one has to do with employment. Employment in our country has been measured to be very high, and it's even more prominent among our youth, the future of the country. And therefore, through this ministry, as a coordinator of employment creation, we have one of those focal areas. So the employment is one of our key strategic areas that stands out in our strategic plan, that we are going to ramp up efforts towards coordinating the various employment creation initiatives. And we are happy that through NDP 6, there is a lot of sectors that have been identified that can help the country to create those jobs. So from our side, we will work with those sector ministries and institutions, and especially with the National Planning Commission, to make sure that for every investment or effort, and also public investment, we also count in terms of the expected desired outcomes, how many jobs are to be, have been created actually. And it's not only jobs in terms of numbers, but also jobs in terms of quality. And we have, in our industry, we talk about decent work. That is not just good enough that somebody is getting, a pay, but that pay should be able to enable that person to be able to, to manage, because the cost of the cost of living is high in the country.
Yeah.
And our focus is not only one-sided to look at the workers, but also to look at the interest of the employers, because we need, we have what we call a tripartite. That is the government, the employers, and the employers or the workers.
Yeah.
For this country to develop, we need each other, and therefore the responsibility of the government is to ensure sound tripartite relationship between those parties, because that is the only way for us to develop our country and to ensure that we actually live in a very stable country.
Yeah. Now, many Namibians are concerned about fairness in the workplace. And of course, like you've mentioned, access to labor justice is part of this plan also. How will this plan directly impact workers across the country?
Well, this plan of ours, and we have already been really reaching out to our social partners, and which comprise of the workers, and especially the workers' representatives, the recognized trade unions in the country, and then the employers on the other side. As I said, we need each other, and we have policies, and not policies but laws that are there. The Labor Act is one of them, the main one, that provides for both rights and obligations. And for us as the ministry responsible for labor relations, we have a very strong enforcement responsibility. And therefore, through this plan, we are positioning ourselves to increase the performance of that compliance, from both sides. One, it will be, if you were, for lack of a better word or so, it will be a carrot and stick type of approach. A carrot in the sense that we also have a responsibility to create awareness, to reach out to our social partners, to make sure that they, for one, understand what the law requires of them. The other one is also for us to create opportunities for empowering them through information. So we will be reaching out through, to and through our social partners for us to ensure that indeed the provisions of the various laws and the requirements, that are contained in those laws are well known by investors, employers, as well as by the employees, so that then through that we can then be guaranteed that there will be sound, and the win-win relationship between employers and employees. So safety first, and we have among the various initiatives that we have put in our plan is really to come up with deliberate measures. One of them is the occupational health, and safety and health, OSH, a bill that we are working on, which will enable us, as an outfit from the Labor Act, for us to have a dedicated piece of legislation that then helps us to regulate occupational safety and at the workplace in the country. So that is one of the instruments. Obviously, the other one, bigger one, we are at an advanced stage with the amendments of the Labor Act, a process which has started some years back, but we are now, ramping up it more so that then we can conclude, because we want to really, improve on how things are currently done to ensure that the rights, of both the employers and the employees are safeguarded, and we can then have a continuous, harmonious relationship, productivity, as well as the other objectives of decent work in our country.
Yeah.
So that is just one of the instruments. And then through the Social Security Commission, for instance, there is also an amendment to the Social Security Act to provide for two things. One of them is the establishment of a national pension fund, and then the other one is to provide for an unemployment insurance fund. You would recall, and the public will recall, that when we were dealing with COVID, we found a lot of our fellow women and men who had to, who lost jobs, and therefore we are, through that, the government found it necessary that we should have a mechanism in place to be able to deal with, uneventualities like that, when they occur. So through the Social Security Commission and the ministry responsible for justice and labor, we are working on those instruments, which we believe are going to bring benefits, to our society. I can only, on behalf of the ministry, the minister and the team that is here, and the team that is here with us, it really is both, it comprises of the Office of the Employment Equity Commissioner, and then we have also the Office of the Labor Commissioner, and then we have the various directorates within the departments of labor and justice. And really, we are looking, among other things that we are looking at, is to ensure that the laws that are in place in our country, and Her Excellency the President in her State of the Nation address have emphatically emphasized, that we need to make sure that we have practical solution to the problem that we are addressing. And she has called on the public to submit any laws or policies that are in place which the public feel that are not adequately addressing their needs, so that through the Ministry of Justice, where the Law Reform and Development Commission is under, we will ensure that we make the necessary reform to those policies, laws, and then for us to be able to ensure that as a government and this particular administration, we are able to respond to the needs of the people of this country.